Have you ever noticed, even when nothing is actually wrong in this moment, the mind comes up with imagined stories, fears like how uncertain life is, or what will happen to me if bad things happen? You already know that this is how the mind creates suffering. But what if there is a way out of this suffering? That's what we are going to explore deeply in this video. So make sure to watch till the end because many of the answers to your burning questions are hidden in this video. Let's walk the path of the ultimate freedom. This is the beginning of the end of your suffering.
Okay, what is the topic for today?
Topic for today is how certain spiritual insights can end your suffering permanently.
Okay, do we have specific spiritual practices in the mind?
Yes.
Let's get started on the first one then.
Okay, I have been exploring spirituality since 6 to 7 years now, and I have come across many spiritual teachings. But present moment awareness, this specific teaching of present moment awareness, has been a profound influence on me, profound impact. So it has actually made me free from suffering. I went through a lot of suffering, and from my experience, I can 100% guarantee if somebody knows what I know today, they can actually eliminate their suffering, their mind made suffering, the psychological suffering. They can put that to an end permanently. They can take the hold of their mind completely, and their mind will not be a problem anymore. So that's a major, immense value in this insight that I'm going to share.
Okay.
Let's inquire what is the problem in this moment? What problems do we have in this moment? Or what problems do you have in this moment? And what I mean by this moment is only this particular instant of time. If we slice the time that is passing and cut that to only this second, to this very second, what problems do we have here right now?
Okay, let's explore that.
Yes.
Right in this moment, as I'm trying to see what problem do I have, I cannot find anything because in this very moment, as you defined it, this slice of moment, exactly here, not a second after or before, I find completely pleasing to think in that manner that in this very moment, yeah, I don't have any problem. But I'll follow up with what is the value of that. What I mean is, in this moment, yes, I don't have a problem. But if I don't plan for the future, if I don't learn from the past by thinking about some of the problems I had and the solutions that I tried and some have worked and some have didn't work, if I don't learn from that, and if I'm simply satisfied with this moment because I really don't have any problem in this moment, then how future problems are going to be handled?
When you say you have to think about the future, it's true that you have to think about the future, but only to a limited extent. What we are experiencing these days or with our mind is our mind has got completely enamored with the past and enamored with the future, and it is not able to live in the present, and it's completely covered up by future thoughts and past thoughts. Actually limit the extent of plan. To what extent we plan? The planning is going on throughout the day, and throughout the day the past thoughts are there, the regret is there, thoughts of guilt may be there, or I should do this, I shouldn't have done that. So that overthinking and worry and all the past negativity that comes up and manifests in the present moment, and we find ourselves completely immersed in that thoughts, in the thoughts of the past and future. That is what I'm pointing as a problem. What is natural is the state of ease, but we are losing that. And what is actually helping us to remember our state of ease, these kinds of spiritual insights in this generation, is that we are just blinded by thoughts. To step in the present moment, to enter the present moment only by, like you said, you had some pleasing experiencing, or you had some happy, or some you were at ease when you were in the present moment, right? So why don't the mind wants to continue that? Because the mind is itself past and future thought, and it wants to sustain itself. Basically the momentum of the mind doesn't let you see this value of the present moment. So Present moment is actually how you liberate yourself from past thoughts, future thoughts, by being consistently in this moment that you found pleasing. So the value of that is that it will liberate you of suffering, and that's something in us that might not accept that freedom. That is the momentum of the mind essentially. That is the habitual mind, habitual part of the mind. When we actually experience this comes a reality of our lives, it becomes so easy to step in, to enter the present moment and see that every kind of past thought, every kind of future thought is happening in the realm of the mind, and you are separate from it.
What is the value in seeing I don't have any problems right now? Yes, I don't have any problems right now, but in the future I will. What is the value of knowing I don't have any problems right now?
Okay, so let's see if this answers your question. Just imagine that you have reached the future, that incident that you are thinking of, that problems will be there with in your life, right?
Yeah.
So you have reached that point, and how does that point come up, or how does that? Isn't it the present moment itself when the future problems come?
Yes.
Yes. So, what do you think? In that moment also, there would be problems?
Yes.
Yes. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, in that moment, when the problem has arrived, in the present moment of that future moment, there is a problem.
Okay.
Isn't it? Because that's how we defined it just now, right?
But rethink about this, because in that moment also, if I ask you this question, what problems do you have in this particular instant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that moment, what would your answer be?
In that particular moment, unless I have a physical threat of some kind, I would not have problems, but I would still have the problem lingering, waiting for my act.
Yes, that might be an event that needs your attention at that very instant, that very moment.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Would you act at that moment?
I think different problems have different level of urgency to act. I think we need to pick one and explore that. Let's say I need to buy a health insurance, and right now I don't have a problem. I can postpone it as long as I want. But I might have a sense of feeling in the back of my mind that I need to do it. And if I push it long enough, the problem will arrive. And in that instant, I might regret that I should have bought the insurance. This is not urgent in the sense that I need to take action right now, but it can become urgent in the future point. And in fact, at some point, it might be too late to act on it. There can be a regret of some kind.
Let's take this one and clarify how to navigate through this.
Okay.
So, there's an alternative to the lingering thought that says that I need to do this in the future. There's an alternative to that, and you set a reminder for yourself and forget about it. So, this is a practical level solution.
Right.
So,
See, I might get a thought. This used to happen to me, and it happens to people, that let's say I set an alarm, a reminder to do that after 2 weeks. Now, I still keep thinking about what if within that 2 weeks something happens?
okay.
How to deal with that?
Ask yourself, do you have faith in facing any kind of negative situation that might arise? And if you have that kind of faith, that okay, whatever happens, I'll deal with it. So that is kind of solution that is on the practical level. But on the level of awareness, present moment awareness, this is just a worry thought, I think. So
I understand what you mean. Let me put that in my words. Okay, if I do that after 2 weeks, if I set an alarm, a reminder to do it after 2 weeks, I might regret to not have done that early. Okay, possible. If that is the case, if you think you might regret it, in that case, schedule it early. Can you do it? Can you schedule it early? Instead of having that lingering thought of having a regret in the future, take an action and think of it and see if you can schedule it earlier. The answer is simple, yes or no. Can you do it or not? If you can, then do it. If you cannot, accept the reality that you cannot do it within 2 weeks.
yes,
At that point, you don't really have a choice but do it after 2 weeks. Now, within 2 weeks, if something happens, you were already out of option. You had already accepted when you decided to do it after 2 weeks. Within that, if something happens, you simply accept it as one of the possibility. You kind of should have already anticipated and already accepted the consequence of doing it after 2 weeks. If within the 2 weeks, if it happens, you simply accept, because that is the reality at that point.
Yes.
You can think of it as your luck or bad luck. It doesn't really matter how you think of it, how you interpret it. That is the reality at this point. Now, there is a very good chance that nothing would happen until 2 weeks, which is usually the case. Sometimes it can happen, sometimes things can go bad, but either way, can we see that there is no need to worry about? That part is the unnecessary suffering that you're talking.
Yeah.
So the suffering is, if something goes bad, there is a kind of a suffering there, which is an unease can happen in those moments. We can also discuss about that. But what we can completely agree is there is an aspect of unnecessary suffering as well, a psychological unnecessary suffering as well, just because there is a lingering thought of what might happen, an imagined problem, which is not at all here. And also a regret for, if something does bad happen, I will regret, is also completely unnecessary. If something does happen and it just happens and you deal with it, really, when the problem actually happens, you have dealt with things before in the same exact way you will deal with that now. Maybe problem is different, but you have the capacity to deal with it in any capacity that you have. If it's outside your capacity, you need to accept that also to an extent.
Yeah.
So with that learning of accepting the reality, you get rid of this unnecessary psychological suffering.
Yes.
That's what you're trying to point at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the future problem arises, you are in the present moment itself. That is the present moment. That comes as the present moment, and you just face the problem and you deal with whatever has to be done. You do that and you simply accept it. That's all. So the objection might be there that this is easier said than done, but I would encourage to try this for yourself and see if this actually works for the audience. Basically, keeping an open mind to experiment with certain insights or ideas is how you actually truly explore spirituality.
Yeah.
So keeping an open mind is important.
Yes, this brings to my mind difference between pain and suffering. Maybe pain is not optional, but suffering is always optional. If there is a physical pain, maybe you cannot avoid that pain, but suffering of that pain can be avoided. What I mean by suffering of that pain is psychological pain.
Yes.
That why did this happen to me? Oh, I feel so much pain. I hope I will get relief from this pain. When I'm going to get relief from this pain? All of this mental chatter is completely unnecessary. You can logically and rationally think about how to get rid of that pain. Really, you can do that without the mental suffering, without suffering that pain. You're already suffering physically. You don't need to add a mental pain to that. If there is a pain, let's say there is a pain somewhere here, you can take a few breaths and observe that pain. It will not be as bad as you would imagine. There is a term, unbearable pain. The fact is, they're already bearing. It is a term that we use. It is unbearable in the psychological space. In the physical space, you are bearing it already. If it was physically unbearable, your body goes unconscious automatically.
Yes.
To protect you from this immense pain, your body goes unconscious. If you are awake, you're experiencing the pain, that means it's already bearable.
Yes.
Whatever amount of the pain that is. You calling that an unbearable pain, you're adding a mental suffering to it, which is unnecessary.
Yes.
So this is the difference between pain and suffering.
You can accept the suffering, and that in turn accepts the pain itself also.
Yeah, to an extent you can accept it. To an extent, there are examples of Ramakrishna who had a throat cancer, I believe, and he was in immense pain. But one of his visitors, he asks him, how are you doing? He says there is a lot of pain and all that, but then the visitor immediately says, you're saying you have all this pain, but I see you're in immense bliss. And Ramakrishna says, rascal has caught me. Because he is in bliss even with that pain.
Yes, and that is possible not only for the sages, it's possible for whoever is interested and willing to explore these things and
Yes.
genuinely experiment with the spirituality, insights, all that, and apply those teachings, whatever teaching resonates.
Yeah.
Often we assume spirituality is hard, the path is so hard, and a lot of times people assume that they have to go through a lot of suffering. But just keeping an open mind and being and listening to others, listening to authentic gurus, that can actually help a lot.
Okay, let's explore the second insight.
So second insight is what is acceptance and how to end suffering through acceptance.
Okay, explain. What is acceptance?
So generally what people think is acceptance is accepting whatever happened with you, whatever is happening with you, or whatever will happen with you. This is the next step, it is there. But the first point, how you enter the acceptance state, is try to accept only and only just this moment, and pay full attention to what's happening in this moment and just accept it. Allow this moment to unfold however it wants to be. That's how you experientially understand what acceptance means. It is not actually of accepting the situations in the beginning. In the beginning, how you need to see this is accepting only this moment, and you carry that forward to the next moment. For example, I accepted this moment, this right here, not my situation. I accepted just this moment, not the situation, but this moment. What I mean by situation is, situation can be where I'm sitting right now, or what thoughts are going in my mind, or what I have to do next, what I have done a few minutes back. So all that is just situation. But what I'm trying to point at is accepting what is here in this moment. That is how you enter acceptance mode, you can say. Once you actually see this in your experience, that you can accept whatever is here, you have the capacity, you have the ability to be in line with this moment, to whatever is there, and you see that, okay, oh my god, I can actually accept what reality is. That is how you experience acceptance in your life in this moment. And after that, once you do that, once you actually pay complete attention to this moment, and you see that you are one with it, you cannot escape this moment. However this moment is unfolding, a thought comes that why not, or can I accept this moment as it is? Do I have the ability to accept this moment as it is? Do I have this ability? Do I really have this ability? Just ask this to yourself. You can try it now and see what comes up. What does the mind say? I'm not asking you to accept past or future. I'm not asking you to accept anything that happened 5 minutes prior to this moment, anything that will happen in the next 5 minutes. I'm not asking you to accept that. I'm only asking you to accept what's here and now. Can you do that? That's the question. The further step is just being with this question for a while, that asking yourself repeatedly, can I accept this moment now? Okay, this is a new moment. Obviously this is a new moment. The moment that I was explaining acceptance, that is past now. But what is, can I accept now this fresh moment? If I just see and look around, it's a new moment. I know it's a new moment, and I know that I can actually accept it. I have this ability. That resistance of the mind comes up in the form of thoughts, and thoughts are just about the past and future. It cannot come in the present moment. No, it can come. But what I mean to say is, present moment have no problems. Present moment cannot have problems. But only when you remember the past, remember the future, that's when the mind says, okay, I have problems. But without that mental commentary, that past, future, in this moment, do you really have any problems? Just see that, are you thinking about future or are you thinking about past? Just see that in your experience. Or are you thinking about what will happen in the next moment, or what happened in the last moment? Are you really present? That's the question. So if you really are in the present, there can't be any problems. Acceptance means to see this as it is. Acceptance means to see that you are free now. You are free from problems right in this moment. That's how I would find and explain acceptance.
Okay, I like the clarification that you gave. You don't have to accept the future or past, simply accept this moment, right? Because most of the times when we are not accepting, it is usually about what if this happens and how do I accept that? The fact is that is not a reality. That is simply an image, a thought in your mind. That is not a reality yet. It can happen. We only think of a possibility that it can happen, but we don't think about the possibility that it might not happen. I'll take a bit of a different approach to the way I think of. For me, acceptance and love are synonyms. This idea is radical, and there are terms that I use, which is radical acceptance, that is synonym with radical love. Everything that is accepted is loved, and everything loved is accepted. In that sense, I attribute this quality to God with a capital G. That is how God loves everything. Without that love, without that acceptance, things would not exist. They would not even exist. It is that radical. Now, bringing that to a human experience, how that acceptance looks like.
Does this discussion feel like something you have been searching for? We go even deeper in our satsang, where we offer direct experience of your true nature, real freedom from suffering, and guidance for wherever you are on the path. If this resonates with you, now is a good time to join. Enroll in the community today. Link is in the description. Now back to the discussion.
In my take, in my perspective, I would even accept the past and the future as well, including the thoughts about the future, including the worst scenarios imagined in the mind. I would accept those things as well. Because once you accept everything that can be, if you accept everything that could be, then there is no resistance to anything at all at that point. For example, most people would want to avoid death, right? But the reality is that it is inevitable. If you can, which I suggest it is possible, definitely possible, if you accept your death, then you no longer have fear of anything. Now, there can be multiple interpretations to this, whether it's good or bad. That all aside, you will not have fear. Now, there can be other things, like you might have an interview and you might not like the scenario that you fail that interview and you do not get that job, and you're feeling something, a resistance towards that possible outcome. It is not a reality yet, it is possible outcome. You're feeling a resistance towards that possible outcome. But if you can accept that, okay, you might not get the job, you try the next one, something else, then you no longer have to feel that resistance and that negative psychological suffering that is happening. That is not necessary anymore. Acceptance can be powerful in that way as well, that you simply accept whatever can be possible. Those thoughts are coming up to you. Look at them completely with your consciousness and accept, simply accept. If you do not have any other choice, then accept. If you can change them in some way or form, then you have an option to change. You don't have to suffer. In any scenario, the suffering is unnecessary.
Yes, suffering is optional.
Yeah, that is how I see it.
In this way, acceptance takes you beyond this human level completely.
Yeah, it definitely can.
Because without the resistance of the mind, I would say there is no mind in its how it operates. Acceptance is like the quickest way to explore yourself, God, reality.
Yeah.
Like, if you really understand and apply this in life, you just, in my experience, how I understand this is, I accept this moment as it is, and the next moment, and the next moment as it comes, and I feel like, wow, there are no problems, and whatever problems or situations or challenges might arise, I'll deal with them. So where is fear, where is attachment, where is that basically human condition is of fear. So where is that human condition? You actually transcend every negativity or fear or unconscious thoughts by just accepting what is, just by acceptance. This one mantra of accepting is immensely powerful, and I have experienced that nothing kills the ego like acceptance does. So I am realizing this as we talk, that it's the shortest way.
Nothing kills ego more effectively than acceptance. Ego always has an agenda of survival to keep this body alive. That is the agenda, which is good, but unfortunately, it does that more than necessary. And that's where all these unnecessary problems come from. So the ego imagines threat all the time, from all the places, all the angles. That's where the psychological problems can come from. For example, look at this behavior of the body. It wants to eat as much calorie as it can eat, and look at the effect of that. A lot of people have diabetes for this very reason, because the body cannot control itself. It doesn't understand the consequence of that. The body The ego still lives in a place in the history where food was a scarcity. Food was not available as easily as it is available today. But the body doesn't realize that. That is one example to look at the behavior of the body, the mind, and ego. It is not living with the reality that is available today. It is living somewhere else where the problems of that historical place is not available, right? Those problems are not here anymore. But the body still assumes that and lives in such a manner that it assumes the problems are still here. But that is not the case. The conscious mind knows that, logically we know that, but the body doesn't. So that springs a lot of problems, unnecessary problems. So, like I was saying, there is this agenda of the ego to survive this body. It creates a lot of fears because of which is also unnecessary. Fear of survival, like what if something happens? This fear, look at the human lifespan right now, compare that with past. The human lifespan has increased significantly over the decades and centuries, but the body doesn't understand that yet. It still thinks it is living in the scariest place on earth, in the jungles. That is not the case anymore. You have hospitals now, which was not a reality back then. You are safe from wild animals, which was not the case back then. The food was very rare to find, especially fat and sugar. That is not the case anymore. Just these simple facts can show you how the body is, or the ego is living in unreal imagined world for itself. We can consciously see it, but the body cannot. It hasn't adjusted to this life that we have right now. Modern life. You can look at the mobile usage and the addictions in that area as well. So there are many examples to this. So with the body's agenda, ego's agenda to survive, it creates problems, unnecessary problems. While you can be present and living this life without that agenda, you are actually quite safe. You're actually without problems.
Also, this brings to my mind that we don't really need to accept the problems, we just need to see there are no problems. We are actually safe. And if something bad happens, as we define bad, we just deal with it, we just accept it. Even if death comes, even if disease comes, what choice do we have other than accepting it?
Exactly.
So why live in this fearful egoic mode? That is what unconsciousness really is. We are sleeping and we are not awake to what's here and now, what's that we are in a very good condition right now.
Yeah, beautifully put. What choice do we really have when unforeseen circumstances come? Circumstances that we do not like. Again, when we say we do not like, see that as agenda of the ego. It wants to survive.
Yeah.
But the reality doesn't have any agenda. It simply is. For us, from an individual point of view, most of the things that are happening in the world are random. Most things are out of our control. But from an ego point of view, those things are bad, those things are good. Controllable sometimes, yeah. We imagine that too. But deep down, the ego knows some of those things are not controllable, and that's why it fears them because of that agenda of survival. If, as you, the conscious being, if you let go of this agenda, there is complete freedom to experience in life. If we can just let go of this agenda, you are in fact safe to a very great extent relative to the past. So letting go of that agenda can bring immense peace in this very moment. Think what you are resisting right now or about the future. See how there is a hidden attachment lurking there. Can you let go of that attachment, whatever that is, and see how that is attached to your ego, which is not even real? If we go into the subject deeply, we can see that it's not even real. It is an identity given to the body. It is an idea that I am this individual, which we don't even know for a fact. And from that, an ego appears and tries to control the body and mind so that it survives. But ego knows that it cannot succeed in that because it already knows that the body will perish. And that is why it's eternally in fear. It is always afraid. That can be let go if you just stop that agenda. That's all it takes.
Basically, that agenda to survive, right?
Agenda to survive. Survive what? This body, which will definitely perish. That is a fact.
Just accepting this reality that body
Yeah,
will perish, it will actually leave you fearless. That's
yeah,
what can be more precious
yeah,
than fearlessness.
yeah. In fact, I always say this, in fact, once you accept your death, you start to live fully.
Mm.
Accepting the death is what's stopping you from living the life.
Yes.
To live, you need to mourn your death.
Mm.
To live, you need to mourn your death before it happens. That's
Mm.
when life begins. You will
Mm.
prosper like anything once we accept that. Yeah,
Mm.
this is a very deeper topic. We can delve into this some other time. Essentially, what this topic of death does, it challenges the ego very directly,
Mm.
and I like directness. This topic is very close to my heart to discuss and to talk to other people because it's a very direct, it's a no bullshit kind of a direct method to attack the ego and to show where it really stands.
And we should be very careful that ego will come up from time to time, and it will create this false self importance that I am so important, I should never face some bad things in my life. But see that it is a narrative, it is arising from fear, and you as an ego, as a body, is not important in the eyes of reality. So accepting this, that you are not important in the eyes of reality, in reality you are not important, that hurts the ego, that creates sadness somewhere. But once you see and accept the sadness, it just transmutes that into fearlessness and freedom. So I think that's powerful.
It is. It's absolutely powerful. This is where the acceptance comes back again. Once you accept the reality as it is, like you said earlier, this is also real. This body and mind that we think is so much important from the subjective experience, from the reality perspective, it is not important at all. It can just get rid of it just like that.
Yes.
A disease or some tsunami or some earthquake, whatever, things like that. It can just get rid of this body and mind just like that. For reality, this is not important. And that's why the ego is so afraid all the time.
Mm.
But if we accept this perspective of the reality, that is where acceptance, radical acceptance comes. If we can accept the reality as it is without resisting it, without telling the reality what it should be from our limited, agenda driven ego's perspective, if we don't dictate the reality what it needs to be, and if we accept that as this is, then you are aligned with the reality and you're no longer fearful for anything.
And that's the Advaita realization also. Non dual realization that you have been one with reality always.
I want to clarify what accepting the reality is not. Because if everything is accepted, it is natural for a question to rise where do you simply let everything happen? So, what we discussed about acceptance, there is a scope of misunderstanding here. And the scope is it passiveness? Is it non action? It is absolutely not that. Acceptance is accepting the reality. Now we need to explore that a bit more and define what these things actually mean in the real scenario. For example, if a lion is chasing you, in that moment, you can run away or accept the fate and die right there. That would be passiveness. And acceptance is not passiveness. Accepting that the lion is chasing you is the current situation. But in that situation, what you do does matter from the human point of view. You can give up and die right there, or you can run away. Both are valid possibilities. Acceptance is available in both of them, right? If you are okay to die, you die right there, you have accepted. That is the reality you have accepted. If you run away, that is the reality you have accepted to run away. In both the cases, you have accepted to the fact that a lion is chasing you. Now, in that moment, if you resist the fact that a lion is chasing you, saying, "Why, oh my God, why is lion chasing?" That is unnecessary suffering. You stay there and die, or if you run away, both are completely fine. And even as you're running away, if you're thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, why lion is chasing me?" that is also unnecessary. Your task now is to run away or somehow survive. That is the task. The task is not to suffer mentally why is lion is chasing. This reminds me of a scene from a movie, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. In that movie, the last scene, the three guys, the main characters of the movie, are running away from bulls. In the beginning, they are afraid and all that, and after a while, once they start running and once they accept that moment, Once they accept that danger, they start smiling and they start running and they actually enjoy that. That is what acceptance gives you. Even in such a danger, you start enjoying it because the nature of the present moment is such that you simply enjoy it. It doesn't matter what the content is, you will simply enjoy. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Imagine yourself that the lion is chasing you and you have accepted your death, but still you're running. You will enjoy the fact that a lion is chasing you, that there is a thrill there.
Yes.
You will actually enjoy to an extent. Not to an extent, you will simply enjoy that moment once you have accepted. There is a thrill in that.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by accepting the death. It's complete. It's
Yes,
full.
yes. There is nothing but enjoyment once we let go of this agenda of the ego. Because you cannot ever resist reality. You cannot argue with the reality. When I say reality, that which is here, not what you have imagined, not the future. Of course, you can do that as well as an exercise and accept every bad scenarios and you're free more. But do know that those are imagined. What is here, you cannot argue. It's already here.
Yes.
You can change it. You can try and change it if it's in your capacity. If it is not in your capacity, accept that as well. Once you do, you're free. In that sense, you're always free because reality is here. Forever, it is already here. Do you have anything else to say? Okay, with that, we end here then. Okay, bye bye.
If our message resonated with you, but you find it hard to stay in this understanding, to remember it when it actually matters, and to live it, we hear you. We have a solution for this stage of awareness. What you really need is consistent pointers to truth, every day, every week, until it becomes your living reality. Our weekly satsang provides that. If you genuinely want to be free from suffering, not as an idea, but as your actual experience, satsang is where that happens. Details are in the description. You are welcome to join.
You promised sun, but you bring rain. I still love